1. Sold out tonight, just after midnight. Everyone's in and I'm wrapping up audit paperwork. I see a woman walking in with her suitcase.
Checking in, last name Cockweasel.
Wonderful. Can I see an ID and the card you would like to use for verification purposes? She happily provides both, and I check her house reservations for her name. Nothing comes up. Check arrivals for the next business day, and of course, there it is. I explain to her that her reservation is for the next night, and apologize that we have nothing available to check her into right now.
You do realize that I'm gonna have to sleep in the lobby, right?
I am more than happy to call around and find you alternate accommodations for tonight. I imagine that'd be more comfortable. I awkwardly laugh and start dialing some of our neighboring properties. After about 5 minutes calling different places, I find one just a short distance that is willing to price match and hold the room until they can run audit, so they can sell out as well. I jot down their information and look up to find her laying on one of the sofas. I approach and explain to her what I've been able to find for her, explain where it is and how to find it, that they will even lower their rate to honor the rate she had booked at. We can go ahead and cancel her reservation here with no penalty if that works for her. Her face drops and she asks,
"How come I can't stay here?"
"I'm sorry, we don't have anything that I can check you into at this point in time, being that we have no vacancies."
"Okay, but I'm a shiny member. I have a reservation for here. I can wait till check-in. Just let me sleep in the lobby."
I understand, and we will be more than happy to accommodate the reservation you have, should you wish to keep it. When a room opens up, we can also store your luggage and all, but in the interest of your safety and the enjoyment of other guests, I cannot let you sleep in the lobby.
So let me get this straight. I made the reservation a little bit ago. I'm paying to stay here. I have my reservation for today. But you're telling me to leave because I don't have a reservation for today. Does that make sense to you? Help me understand, because I don't think you're making much sense.
Sure, so the business date and calendar date are not the same thing. A hotel night starts at 4 p.m. That is when we begin taking check-ins for that night. I understand that you made a reservation for the earliest possible date, or what would be today's calendar date. Unfortunately, we're still operating for the night of the previous day, which would need a reservation for yesterday. Additionally, we don't have any rooms for you to check into anyway. It's an unfortunate scenario, but that is why I went through and secured alternative accommodations for tonight. If you are still looking to stay here tomorrow night, we can keep that other reservation, or we can cancel it at no cost.
You don't care? I was just complaining about this earlier to a friend, and she agreed the service at this brand has gone down majorly. All you guys care about is money, and squeezing more and providing less.
Once again, you have my sympathies for the situation at hand, and I'm sorry you feel that way. But I'm sure as a frequent guest of our brand, you wouldn't appreciate someone else commandeering our dining area to use as a makeshift bed.
You used to be able to book a room and they take care of the rest, and now I'm being kicked out as a paying guest.
You are being asked to find alternative sleeping arrangements until the check-in time of the date of your reservation. I offered a solution in hand, you may take it or not, but there is nothing more I can do for you.
Cancel my reservation and delete my shiny account. I have never been so poorly treated as a customer before in my life.
She snatched a business card for the manager and the paper that had the name, number, and address of the other hotel, as well as the quoted rate, matched rate, and my name before storming out. 2. A man who looks maybe in his early 60s walks in, and after he looks at me, doing 4 till 12, and a co-worker who was finishing a 9 to 5 shift, immediately saying,
"You do not look like the people I talked to on the phone."
I just looked at him because I literally got there maybe 45 minutes before this, and my co-worker says, "Oh no, did they say their name?" And he says,
They had accents.
So immediately I assumed that he probably got in touch with the call center rather than our front desk, so I just simply explained that to him. He looked at me like I was a moron and said,
But I don't think I did.
So my coworker asks, was it a Hispanic accent? Because the other person on day shift is a young bilingual Latina, and he said,
They had Indian accents.
Which means he did talk to the call center, but I wasn't going to correct him on that. Well, after that, my coworker left, and I had the joy of looking for him in our system. He gave me his name, and I couldn't find it, so I asked if he had a confirmation number. He said,
No, but they tried to make me get one.
Like, if that was a lame attempt at a joke, please stop. So we tried looking it up based on his name, and when nothing came up, he snapped at me.
I have rewards for this hotel under my phone number. What do you want me to do here?
Then when I couldn't find it again, he says,
Well, how are you spelling?
And I spelled for him, and he says,
Well, my account was under Grumpinson instead of Grump.
The name that he gave me when he first entered.
So maybe that's why.
Like, sir, that might have been helpful information to have. Lo and behold, we couldn't find his name yet again, so he asked me what our number was, and if this was the right place. I caught a glimpse of his phone, and the phone number didn't have the same area code. I told him what our number was, and when he told me that's the one he called, I was able to look at our cheat sheet. It's a small-town hotel, so we have a list of local hotels to reference that may offer other things that we don't for the sake of convenience. And tell him which hotel he actually called. He just stood silently and awkwardly for a strangely long amount of time, and I politely said, I think that means that your reservation may be at this hotel instead of ours. He finally says,
I just don't know how I could have done something that stupid.
Immediately started calling up the poor call center employee he originally talked to and said,
I want to know why I'm in the wrong hotel.
And I just wanted to say maybe it's because you can't use Google Maps correctly. Like, even after he called the number back to see which number it was earlier, the contact literally popped up as the other hotel. He stared right at it and still couldn't process that his reservation wasn't here. Well, after that, he still wouldn't leave. That, and I was nervous that it may be gearing up to be a Karen meltdown episode, but he kept trying to make conversation with me while still being incredibly snooty and treating me like I couldn't possibly understand anything he's saying. After I explained again that his reservation is at another hotel, he says,
Well, do they have a pool?
And I said yes, and he says,
Well, do you have a pool?
And I say no, because our pool is empty and is being painted, and we let every guest know before they check in. He stays awkwardly silent and then says again,
I just don't know how I did this.
And I just said something as what I thought would be a possible thing. Well, this hotel and that hotel are both in the same brand. So that may have been part of the confusion. And, of course, he looks at me like I'm stupid again and says,
Yeah, but that's not something I usually do.
Like, I don't know, man. Like, wanting to fight a random stranger isn't something I usually do, but I'm considering it today. He finally laughed after calling and berating this call center employee again, and standing in uncomfortable and weird tense silence for a few moments. 3. Night Auditor here. Been in the industry just shy of 4 years, employed at this particular location for 2.5. On with the story. Mr. Shankiewicz is a man who checked in seemingly without a hitch. Despite being a local, we don't usually rent to locals from the area, who only had a debit card, another red flag. We try to be credit card only. He managed to get in there and reserve room 240, which is near the very end of our rectangular 2-floor building. All was fine and dandy. Until a young lady arrived looking for his room number. I asked her if she knew his name. She said his name was David. It was not. Strike one. I informed her that guests would have to check in with their ID. She seemed nervous when she said she didn't have any. Strike two. She then called him on her cell, and he came down a minute later and did all the talking for her. Strike 3. Under these suspicious circumstances, I had to follow safety and security policy. He told me she was going upstairs with him. I said she wasn't. I informed him guests need to check in with their ID.
I wasn't aware of this,
he said, to which I replied that it says so on the registration card he signed, and also the big white sign taped to the computer monitor that would have been under his nose at the time he checked in. He still claimed ignorance of this, and considering how a lot of people can't seem to read signs around here before asking questions that the signs can answer if they simply use their eyes, I believed him. Does this mean I let him take her up? No. So he took her outside and said they needed to talk. Suspecting deception, I went up to his room and waited outside of his door to cut them off in case he tried to sneak her in through the side entrance at that end of the building. Prostitutes try to sneak Johns in this way all the time. Shockingly, only he came back the long way. He was very irate when he saw me standing there, telling me I was violating his privacy, being rather improper and also an a-hole. Also, I should stop making assumptions and should not act so virtuous. I should instead focus on doing my job. It never really clicked with him that in doing this I was in fact doing my job. I told him he was free to leave if he so wished, especially if he was going to continue being rude. He told me to leave him alone and mind my own business, and then went back into his room. I exited the hall and went outside to return to the lobby along the walkway. I encountered his guest, who still had no name, sitting by the front windows, and asked if she was okay. She said she was. I informed her it wasn't personal, and she understood I was just doing my job. This young lady was very nice, and much easier to talk to than the man who was twice her age that had came up the walkway after me. He yelled at me to stop harassing his guest and to mind your own business and go do your job, with a bit of cursing. I reminded him I already was. He threatened to have me fired because he knows people. Okay. After I went inside, he walked off property with his arm around her shoulder, flipping me off through the window in the process like a real gentleman. I called my general manager and explained the situation thus far. He came back an hour later to give me another earful about assumptions and said that I shouldn't be so rigid and square. He gave me this big story about how she got his name wrong because she was confused, and that she was the distraught friend of his younger sister whom he was helping via his particular set of skills as a male nurse at the hospital. I asked him what he was doing with a patient in a local room at that hour between 10 to 11:30 p.m. He reiterated that she was not a patient, just his sister's friend, who was confused and distraught. A family friend who was so confused she did not know his name. Now, in my experience, most people who are distraught aren't easier to talk to than irate old pricks like Mr. Sienkiewicz. But I digress. I knew his story was a pack of lies, my general manager knew his story was a pack of lies, and anyone else I might tell this story to would also know he probably smokes 2 packs of lies a day. After I fed them that same logic and reasoning he tried to give me, Mr. Sienkiewicz finally left the lobby to go back to his room. I made myself a coffee. Did I mention that while he was off the property I locked him out of his room? No? Yeah, I didn't tell him that either. I let him walk the entire length of the building, fight the door to his room for 3 minutes, and then walk the entire length back to the lobby while I watched with admittedly a little amusement on the surveillance monitor. My door key isn't working. Why don't you do your job and make me a new key? You're locked out. That's a shame. You probably did something when you were sniffing around earlier. I wasn't sniffing. I locked you out. You're an idiot. He's lucky I didn't tell him to leave for his continuously abusive language towards staff. I chided him a little bit for his immature behavior, while being a tad smug about it myself. Because why not? When a guest is rude to you, the least you can do is be as polite as possible, while challenging them with the most punchable facial expression you can muster. I haven't been irate with you at all, he said irately. I replied that irate is the only mood I've seen him in since this whole incident began. I offered him my general manager's business card, pointed out which phone number not to call unless he wants to hear my sweet voice again, and he threw it back at me instead. I have told him I've informed my manager about it, but according to him, my side doesn't matter because it is massively one-sided and untrue. He plans on coming here and speaking to my general manager about it in person. I would very much enjoy being present for this, but I'll probably be enjoying a nice, fulfilling sleep instead. I made him a new key and let him sleep it off. He's on the do not rent list now. My general manager has advised me not to keep his deposit for a-hole tax, so she can throw it in his face later about how fortunate he is that she allowed him to keep it. In the words of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, ooh, what a lucky man he was. 4. I'm giving up on pets. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs. I have 2 beautiful shepherds. But I am done with guests traveling with dogs and not taking care of them, or making plans around them, and making sure the hotel will even accept them. We accept dogs £40 and under, with a $25 pet fee and a $250 deposit that usually takes about 2 to 3 days to be refunded. We used to not have the deposit, then had a couple of folks cause too much damage, and we had to require one. It usually dissuades people from booking with us once they hear the $250, which is nice. It's also $250 if you bring in a dog and don't tell the front desk, because just please don't do that. That being said, we usually don't have guests with dogs, and if we do, just one at a time. Today started off with a nice guest with a service dog and one pet but not yet certified. She was able to answer every question for her service dog and was okay with being charged and paying the deposit for her pet. The example of what every guest with a dog should be. I placed her near a side door, told her the dog-friendly spaces to eat in town, and the location of the nearby dog park. I get to the second guest with the dog checking in tonight. She's got this small little girl dog they've been traveling across country with. Asks for dog-friendly places they can eat, and gets placed on the opposite end of the building near our other side door. She grumbles a bit about the deposit, but goes ahead with it. Third guest checking in tonight with a third-party reservation. No mention that he has a dog or anything. It says clear as possible on every third party, I know because I update them, the fee and the deposit. The one he booked through didn't have the weight limit, which I looked for shortly after, and has now been added. I get to the point on the check-in process where he is signing our policy form. Your signature here just says you agree to all of our policies. We are a non-smoking hotel. If you cause any damages, you will be held responsible, and if you have any pets, you have to let us know. I have 2 dogs. Great. I tell him about our fee and deposit. Eyes go wide. But he's already here, so he pays it. His reserved room type is directly at the top of the stairs in the lobby, so he just comes right in through the lobby with the big dog and a smaller one. I let the owner know about the bigger dog just in case and update the third-party list after checking it over. The rest of the front desk won't charge people for their dogs and check in Great Danes, but honestly, if I get in trouble for this, I'm just done. He comes back down with the large dog to take outside and go next door to the restaurant. The second he gets out the door, I guess he takes his dog off the leash. I go outside to catch him and talk to him. He's already gone towards the restaurant. I go back in, lock the front desk, and out the side door to catch him before he walks into the not dog-friendly restaurant with his dog off leash. It's their problem for now. When he comes back through, I'll talk to him, but honestly, I just can't with people and their dogs anymore. I worry about traveling with my dogs. I would hate to show up anywhere and be told they can't go into the hotel because of the weight limit, or let them off leash near a highway like that. I'm dreading to see how badly this turns out. I did eventually speak with him about keeping his dog on leash when he came in last night, outside of the building and in common areas, just to be safe. The owner of next door's restaurant was sitting in our parking lot last night when he entered the restaurant, but as far as I could tell, he didn't make a move to get out and talk to them. The next day, when I came in, I found out the guest had his dog unattended on our shared balcony unleashed. There are 3 rooms with balcony access, but his was the only occupied, thank goodness. Unluckily, the dog was out there unattended when the owner pulled up this morning while the guest was at their car. There were no damages and so far no complaints, so his deposit was returned aside from a small cleaning fee. And he'll be added to our DNR, likely. That being said, the room smelled down to the pillows, not from the dogs, but from the guests themselves. The room was stripped down to the mattress, pillows were replaced, carpet shampooed, and the works. We'll have it running in no time, and I'll be checking it for unwelcome guests just to be safe for our next guest. 5. I took a phone reservation the other night from a man wanting to stay at our lovely hotel for 2 nights. From the get-go, he was completely rude, disrespectful, demanding, and incredibly impatient. I prayed I wouldn't be here to check him in the following night when he was to arrive, but unfortunately I was. We have a pool and jacuzzi. Unfortunately, our jacuzzi is down, and we've been trying to get it fixed for a few weeks. I actually explained this before he made the reservation at the time of check-in, and there are signs everywhere. The pool, however, is open. Check-in was fine. He was a little rude, but nothing I can't handle. Until tonight. I'm still fuming. Just got done checking in a few guests, and things are pretty calm. So I sit down in the side office that's directly next to the front desk. Hello? 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 Literally at the end of the first hello, I was standing right in front of him, but he's yelling off to the right, not even looking in my direction. Hi, how can I help you? By his tone, I could have sworn there was some kind of emergency. How come my room wasn't cleaned today? Don't you offer turn-down service? Yes, we do. I'm not sure why yours wasn't today. After checking with housekeeping minutes ago, I found out he had a Do Not Disturb sign on his door. I truly wish I could have said that, because that would have put him in his place even more than I was about to do. Well, he was going to clean my room then. Mind you, we're a Schmoliday Inn, not the Ritz. Sorry, sir, but you'll have to wait until tomorrow when our housekeepers are... No. I want it done now. Sir, I'm the only one here and I'm not... And your jacuzzi is down? I wouldn't have made the reservation if I'd known that. Now, sir, I know for a fact that isn't true. I'm the one who took your reservation, and I'm the one who checked you in. Now you're just being rude. No, I'm stating facts that you don't like. If we're going to have this much of a problem, I can make a quick phone call to the police and have you removed, and you don't ever have to stay here again. How does that sound? He changed his tone after that. There were other words he said, but I can't quite remember. He apologized and left as soon as I mentioned the police. He was gone for about an hour and just came back with a huge brown paper bag and a 6er of Pabst. Sure, the bag was probably filled with booze. One more word from him and he's out. Nobody deserves to be treated that way. Oh, and he stays here all the time. Looked him up. This is his very first time here. That intimidating talk might work other places, not with me. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 145. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit that like button, and share the video with friends and family. If you'd like to get early access to the videos, then you can support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description, and you get all the videos at the start of the week on Monday. You'll also find links there to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring, as well as a link to the Hellfreezer Discord if you'd like to join us over there. And if you really enjoyed today's video, you can leave a tip by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath the video. But none of that is ever required, although I appreciate it and it has been helping me keep going. Okay, no other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question and answer of the day. And today's question is... Right, I'm asking this to see if anyone has a reasonable answer. Right. When I have the money to do so, I'm going to be booking a flight. I want to go visit Jack. My intent is hopefully that I'll be able to stay for a little while. So I've just been kind of casually getting a rough idea of what flights cost. And out of curiosity, I thought, how much is it just for a one-way flight? And for some reason, it is extremely more expensive for a one-way flight than a return. And it's not even that if you double the price, it kind of works out. No, it is the price for it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The price is double, sometimes more than double, just for one way. It makes no sense to me. So that's the question. Does someone who has more knowledge than I do, more experience than I do you know why? I just can't figure it out. And before we go, we'll have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this question was in relation to how often do you find that famous people, celebrities or YouTubers, do you find you've never heard of them until they get in some kind of trouble? Because that's a frequent thing with me, especially with YouTubers. And today's answer comes from Deeper Things. There are so many of these guys I've never heard of until they become the news story. Like the lady from 8 Passengers. Nope, not before she got arrested last week. But to be fair, I'd never heard of you either until you asked if you could read my stories. I'm glad you did. Yes, but am I in trouble, though? Am I in trouble? Thank you very much for your answer, Deeper Things. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.